And now it's Deborah Kobylt Live.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live. And I've got with me Carolyn Johnson. She's the creator of one of my favorite new board games, Harlem-Opoly. You see that? It's really cool. We might have a picture that my engineer can also put up. Thank you so much for joining us, Carolyn. It's a pleasure. You also run Welcome to Harlem and harlemroots.com. You're a very busy person, and we're going to get into all that. But it all led you to this game, Harlem-Opoly. So talk to us about Harlem-Opoly, please.
So Harlemopoly is a learning tool for students and people just to learn about the Harlem Renaissance. And I figured it'd be an easy way to introduce them to the people, places, and events associated with the Harlem Renaissance. Through my tour company, Welcome to Harlem, doing tours with students, I realized that they weren't having a really learning experience in regards to that time period. And the tours weren't as engaging as I would like them to have been. Mm-hmm. So that led me to create the lessons on Harlem Roots, about the people, places, and events. And then I had to figure out a way how to sell those lessons. And then I came up with the idea of making a Monopoly board to connect them to the lessons. And this way people would learn about the Harlem Renaissance and stuff like that through playing the game of Monopoly.
Talk to us, please. What is the Harlem Renaissance? And let's start, I guess, in the early 1900s, right? Or late 1800s. What was Harlem like then? Who lived there? And then what is this Renaissance that happened in Harlem, please?
Well, Harlem has always been a multicultural community from day one. And in the early 1900s, you had the Irish, you had Italians, you had Puerto Ricans, you had African Americans, you had all these different groups of people living in this wonderful neighborhood known as Harlem. And you also had a large Jewish population as well, and stuff between 1880 and 1930 of 175,000 Jews lived in Harlem. You had Eastern European Jews and Western European Jews that lived within the community. And the Harlem Renaissance started around 1919, right at the end of World War I, when this great explosion happened in regards to African Americans that had migrated from the South because of the Great Migration. You had people moving around within the United States, but you also had the 369 Regiment that had come back from fighting in Europe. And these guys, when they went over to fight in Europe in 1917, a lot of them were jazz musicians. So they took jazz to Europe. And this was the first time they were being exposed to African-American culture and music. So now the war is ending, everybody's coming back, you have all these different moving parts, and for some reason, Harlem was that space that all of this occurred in. And that's when that was the kickoff for the Harlem Renaissance and stuff. It was a great time. Yeah, it was a great time for people to explore as far as the writing, the arts, the dance, the whole explosion of creative talent just happened to be in this place known as Harlem. So it was just a boom for us. And as far as a community with people moving there and just exploring and growing as people.
But a lot of it also had to do with, if I'm correct, they built Harlem so quickly, right? That they almost had there was almost a surplus of housing. Is that correct? Right. And they opened it up to many other communities, particularly, middle class Black families, which was wonderful. So they were able to assimilate right into that area with the folks that you said that were already living there.
That's correct. So they had overdeveloped Harlem for the Jewish population because they had started to go farther into Westchester County, Riverdale, right, and the concourse, because you had the train that was going farther up. So they were migrating with the train. So that's right, how we were able to get a stronghold around the 135th Street area, where we were living on the east side of Lenox Avenue. Then we moved over to the west side. And that's where we really made Harlem our home, because we didn't start moving down to the 125th Street area to like maybe the 1930s, where the Jewish population was really dwindling by then, where we started to move below the 135th Street area. But other than that, we were living above 135th Street, Hamilton Heights, Sugar Hill, and places like that.
Right. Now, you grew up there, right?
Yes, I grew up in Harlem, yes. Yes,
and you're there and also up a little further up the street in Washington Heights. I mean, I know this area well because I live there. And the apartment that I had in Manhattan was just beneath there near Columbia, actually even south of there. So how many blocks in particular does Harlem encompass in total?
So Harlem, it's really strange. People think of us as being this small little plot of land. We're actually 6.2 miles, believe it or not. On the east side, we start on 96th Street and we go all the way up to 144th Street, 147th Street. And on the west side, we start on 110th Street and we go all the way up to 155th. So we go basically from 96th Street on the east side, 110th on the west side, all the way up to 155th Street. But we also have a little piece on the bottom, which is known as the Polo Grounds, which is also a part of Harlem. Then you have Randall's Island and Ward's Island, which are part of East Harlem. So we are actually like 1/4 of the island of Manhattan land-wise. People don't realize how much territory we actually cover because we have 3 distinct neighborhoods, Central, East, and West. And we're a little over 6.2 miles.
Yeah. So talk to me about some of the historic landmarks there, such as the Savoy Theater. We've got the Apollo. I mean, if anybody has ever been to the Apollo, that place is just second to none. And so many other historical places there that you'd like to tell our audience about. Because I really think Harlem has got to be on, if you don't live in Manhattan, it's got to be on your must-visit list. It's had its highs, it's had its lows, but it's always maintained itself culturally, which is what I love about it.
Right. So Harlem, it is like a treasure trove of beautiful architectural pieces. You can walk down the streets. It's like an open door gallery with all these beautiful churches and buildings that reside within this community and stuff. And you can start from something as simple as a church like Abyssinian Baptist Church. You can go to the home of Alexander Hamilton. The Grange is there. We have the Grant's Tomb, which is the final resting place of Ulysses S. Grant. Then you have places like the Apollo Theater. You have this beautiful place known as Harlem Stage, which used to be this old water facility, and it's been recreated to be a beautiful performing space. It is limitless. You have Strivers Row, which is these beautiful 2 blocks of these beautiful homes that just are breathtaking and stuff like that. Then you have another historical area known as the Montmartre Park Historical District. It used to be very Jewish and Irish back in the day. Famous Bowery composers, Richard Rodgers, Oscar Hammerstein, and Lorenzo Hart used to live in this area. We have people like Maya Angelou that lived in the area and stuff. So it is just, you can walk down any block and be taken by the beauty of the community and stuff, which is really, really nice. And you have buildings like 409 Edgecombe, 555 and Graham Court, where you have these magnificent apartments that were made for middle-class Jewish families, where some of these apartments are like 8 or 9 rooms. They have double entrances and stuff like that, wood-burning fireplaces and stuff. So people just have this perception as Harlem being this like rundown community. But I was like, no, you have to really come here to enjoy it and see it as a neighborhood. We have these beautiful wide boulevards that, cover our avenues and stuff. Lenox Avenue, 7th Avenue, and 8th Avenue, which are these beautiful boulevards that are within our community. And it's just a really beautiful space to be in. And a lot of new things are coming to our community, which makes it even nicer.
Like what? Tell me.
So we have the first Civil Rights Museum in New York City is going to be coming to Harlem. The Studio Museum of Harlem is in the process of building a new home. The Marriott Hotel is coming on 125th Street. The Apollo Theater will be expanding their footprint. I'm getting 2 more performing venues there. And Columbia University is also expanding its footprint inside of West Harlem, where they've been doing a lot of development over there. The National Black Theater is getting a new home on 125th Street and 5th Avenue. So in a couple of years, you're not even going to recognize 125th Street because the lights will be just as glaring as they are on 42nd Street.
I have to tell you, when I did the New York City Marathon a few years back, I really enjoyed going through Williamsburg, but I especially enjoyed going through Harlem. I was on the slower side, so the light down. And there's nothing like walking through Harlem on 5th Avenue. I think I came out through the Bronx, right? And yes. Over the bridge, and I think it was 144th, I believe, where it's off. And then, of course, I'm thinking, I'm almost done. Keep going. But I almost slowed up a little bit going through Harlem because it is stunning. I think some of the most beautiful, original architecture with the homes you were describing. in all of New York. I have to say, it is absolutely worth visiting. It's beautiful. The restaurants are spectacular. As you said, it's a real community feeling. The galleries are open. You know,
Yes.
people are there. They want, it's a community as opposed to just walking through Harlem. It's a real community. And I got that feeling, believe it or not, from your game. I felt like I was sort of in a community as I was going around the board. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. And like I said before, the game is, we have all these different spaces on there, like the Savoy, the Lincoln Theater, the Lafayette Theater, Connie's Inn. We have the four historical churches that reside on there. Then you have events that came up to the Harlem Renaissance. And then we get to the people. And it was kind of hard to really pare it down because there's so many people that I wanted to include in the game. But
Yeah.
I know I had to pare it down to really get the people that I had a really large impression on the Harlem Renaissance. And I hope I captured that when I started picking out the people who I chose to be on the game and just like some of the spaces, because it could have been limitless.
Yeah, no, it was outstanding. Can you tell our audience some of those folks that are on there?
So we have somebody like Jackie Moms Mabley, James Van Der Zeer, Gordon Parks, Langston Hughes, Zora Nelson Hurston. You might have somebody like Lena Horne, Paul Robeson, Jack Johnson. So I tried to vary it. I just didn't want it to be just one particular. I tried to touch all the different dimensions of it. Somebody like Duke Ellington would be on the board. Chick Webb, he was a famous drummer and stuff. Then you have Count Cullen, famous poet from the Harlem Renaissance, right? W.B. Du Bois, Big Daddy Grace, Adam Clayton Powell Sr. and stuff. So I just tried to get the high level people, but like I said, it was limitless to the amount of people that I could have put on the board, but there's only so many spaces and so many cards to utilize. Samuel Battle, the first African-American policeman who joined the force like in 1910. So yeah, I just tried to educate the people, like these are the beginnings of what became during the Harlem Renaissance and stuff.
This is a really important way to teach all of us, not just young people, but all of us about the rich history and fun that goes on up there, right? That has gone on up there, what it's like now, because I feel like you've incorporated a little bit of everything to make people excited to say, I'm going up there and I'm going to learn more about Harlem because it is spectacular. Let's get to your walking tour that you do. Talk to me about that. You founded that, right? Created it?
Yes. So I founded Welcome to Harlem in 2004, and it's a boutique walking tour company. We basically focus our tours inside of the boundaries of Harlem. We will venture out, but Harlem is our main core space. So we have the Civil Rights Walking Tour that goes to points in Harlem in relationship to the civil rights, and it connects people to those spaces and stuff, because we have a really large palette of number of people that were associated with the civil rights during the Martin Luther King Jr. time that were his secretaries, his friends, people that helped organize the March on Washington, people that was his confidant, somebody like Adam Clayton Powell Jr., who had gotten through a lot of legislation through Congress for Adam Clayton Powell, for Martin Luther King during the civil rights movement. We have the Mount Morris Park Historical District Tour, which covers one of the historical districts in Harlem, Mount Morris Park, which was landmarked in 1971 as an historical district because of the amount of 19th and 20th century architecture that is still standing today in its true condition. Then we have a tour for the Harlem Renaissance, which focuses more around the 135th Street area, because that's where the Harlem Renaissance occurred. And then we also do a lot of custom tours when people come in. I want to see this, I want to see that. We have a jazz tour. We visit a couple of jazz venues and stuff. So it's to give people an opportunity to walk around and see the community and stuff like that. We also go into Spanish Harlem if somebody wants to see the beautiful murals that are over there within that community. And we'll go into West Harlem around Columbia University, and we'll touch sometimes up in the Sugar Hill area. So it just really depends on what people want to see. But we have about 5 or 6 general tours that we do all the time, and then we do custom tours. And that
I would love a custom tour because I want to see them all. I mean,
you have to spend more than one day. Trust me, it's a lot of territory to cover, and that's what people don't realize. They said, I want to see all of Harlem. I was like, you're
No.
going to have to stay here a little while to really get a feel for all three communities that exist within the boundaries of Harlem. And that's what led me to create the Harlem Jazz Box, because there wasn't a lot of live jazz up here. So in 2014, I created Harlem Jazz Box with Craig Harris, his renowned jazz musician, and we do weekly live jazz concerts. And that's to keep the feel and the vibe of jazz within inside of Harlem. And it's been going very well and stuff like that. So we have people from the community come and visitors come since I'm a tour company. They was like, wow, this is what jazz used to be like. And this is the type of jazz that we like that they don't get in Europe and other places and stuff. So we've been doing that for 8 years now, and it's been growing really nicely, which has been really good.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And so often I think of the Cotton Club. I mean, right? Yes. There's so much there, so much history and beautiful history. And I love that you've taken this upon yourself to really get something happening so that we all are interested in learning more about it. Talk to me about, what is it, HarlemRoots.com?
Yes, so HarlemRoots.com is the educational branch. So with me doing tours with the students, like I said, the tours weren't as engaging as I would have liked them to have been. So I started putting together these little lessons, reading comprehension lessons with some questions and stuff like that. And I would give them to the teachers before we did the tour. I say, give them to them as a homework assignment. And they was like, wow, the kids actually like these. I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, you were thinking about making them Common Core, but not knowing anything about that. It took me a while to wrap my brain around that aspect of it and stuff. So I started creating these lessons, put them online during the pandemic, since that afforded me time to work and put them online and stuff. So they were on 4 different levels, depending on the child's reading level and stuff like that. It's a reading lesson. It has questions and answers, written questions. It has fun facts, a puzzle, an infogram. So it's really compact with a lot of stuff. So this way they can learn about the people, places, and events connected to Harlem. So that, takes a lot of energy and time, putting the lessons together, but it's a slow process. And I've enjoyed how we got over 100 lessons online, and we're getting ready to put up like another 9 or 10. So that's been really well. But one thing that I do like about Harlem-Opoly, I do have an online glossary.
Yes.
Every space on the board and every card, there is an online glossary. So it starts the conversation, because the people might not know a lot of these places or events and stuff like that. So I just wanted to give them a snippet of that space or that person, and hopefully that would percolate the juices and make them want to go farther to learn about that person or place or event.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, former President Bill Clinton had or still has his offices there in Harlem. Is that correct?
Yes. On 125th Street, 55 West 125th Street, the Clinton Foundation took the top 2 floors, and they still have 1 floor there, yes. Which is
also put a spotlight on Harlem. I mean, that was very smart. A lot of people were saying, well, why there? And I thought, well, why not?
Right.
Very, very telling, right? So that was really an important moment as well.
Yeah, when he announced that he was coming to Harlem, our real estate shot up 30%, and we haven't looked back since. And he was very adamant about businesses investing in the community, and that's why you see all of these things coming to fruition now in regards to the new museums coming, the stores that were being built and stuff like that. Because prior to that, we were neglected as a community. We were redlined, especially Central and East Harlem. We were totally redlined as a community. And with Mr. Clinton announcing that he was coming there, like you said, they put the spotlight on us. And I think it was a win for us as a community to have him put his office space up there.
That must have been a very difficult time, because Harlem was always trying to, for lack of a better term, improve itself, better itself during the very, very difficult times that New York has had many times, right? And a lot of times people would say, oh, don't go into Harlem. It's like, and being from back east, I know it well. And I'd say, why not go into Harlem? Some of the most interesting places to visit are in Harlem, and restaurants, certainly, at least for me and my family. So that took a lot of hard work, didn't it?
Oh, yes, for sure. And I think when people come, they have a perception, because they say, I saw it on TV and the movies. I was like, okay, so we're going to start from a blank slate here.
That's right.
And by the time they finished, they was like, wow, I wasn't expecting this. Because they was realized, look how beautiful this is. I was like, yes. The people are nice here. They're warm, they're friendly. They talk to you. When you walk down the street, they say hello. And just to feel the vibe of the community, I think is really special because they were like saying, you know, y'all enjoy living here. Y'all know each other here when you walk the streets. We all know each other. It's like a little village still, which is really nice. It's not like everybody's just walking from point A to point B. No. Like we say, we like walking here because we'll walk 10 to 15 blocks because I'm going to see people along the way. I'm going to see what's happening in the neighborhood. And it's a time where you just really hone in as to what's going on in the community. But people are pleasantly surprised by the time they leave as to how diverse the community is, how welcoming it is, and how beautiful it is. And that's what we try to give people when we do tours with them. Be like, just come with an open heart and just see for yourself. And you're going to be happy.
I hope that you're able to get the harlemroots.com. I hope you're able to get that into more schools. I think it should honestly be part of what we teach in our American history, right? I really, really do. It's got to be a segment of it. You know, Harlem, that really needs to be a segment, like so many other parts of American history. It needs to be taught. So I hope that you're successful in getting that out there more. And even this game, this is a perfect way for all of us to learn more in such a fun way about Harlem. And I do love how instead of little railroads, you substituted them with those famous churches, as you mentioned on the board. It was very, very clever because it made me want to know more. So, gosh, thank you so much for doing that. Anything you'd like to say to our audience before we let you go?
Come to Harlem. It's a beautiful community. Come take a tour with Welcome to Harlem or one of the other companies. There are wonderful companies up here to tour with. Come spend the evening with us in Harlem Jazz Box. Check out the game, Harlem-Opoly, and check out some lessons on Harlem Roots. And if you love gospel, we also do gospel now. Every Saturday, we do live gospel concerts from 11 to 12, and we have 3 more remaining this year, I think.
Oh, where?
At Mount Olivet Baptist Church on 120th Street and Lenox Avenue. It's a beautiful church that was actually built as a synagogue. It was known as Temple Israel when it was built back when Harlem was Jewish. It's beautiful. Prominent Western European Jewish families that worship there, the Schultenbergs family from the New York Times, the Bloomsteins, the Kochs, Richard Rogers, Oscar Hammerstein. These people worship in this beautiful space known as Temple Israel, which is now known as Mount Olivet today. So we're scratching along, trying to make some waves in this neighborhood that we know to be as Harlem, which is home to us. And it is a fascinating community. And like I said, we have gospel every Saturday from 11 to 12, 23rd and 24th. That's our holidays. And the last one will be on the 31st.
Beautiful. And please, people, the holidays are like coming up in a week. Harlem-Opoly is a perfect gift for the holidays. It's absolutely perfect. They can order it on your website, right?
That is correct. And they can locally also pick it up. Nalu has it. The Schomburg Center on 135th Street has it. Grandma's Place on 120th Street. And the New York Historical Society also has the game. So it is starting to be distributed to local venues, which is great. It's been selling very well. We sold over 300 games within like the last weeks. So it's doing very well. And I'm very happy for that.
Sorry about the dog there.
So like you said, my aim now is to get it into the Board of Education, the game into the Board of Education, and also the lessons. So that's one of the things that I'll be working on.
Right. Right. I mean, I think this is critical to be in the Board of Education. As I said, what you're teaching should be part of our curriculum, right? It's very, very important that we all know throughout the country the history of this beautiful and historical place. So
no place in the world has been more to American history and the world history than Harlem, because the Harlem Renaissance. No place in the world, 6.2 miles. Nobody can match us what we contributed as a community to American and world history.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us for Deborah Kobylt Live. You'll find our full interview with Carolyn Johnson talking about her Harlem-Opoly on our YouTube and also on our Facebook. And then on the audio version of our podcast, it's everywhere on iHeart, on Apple, on Amazon, just anywhere you get your podcast, you'll find us. Pardon the dog, but she's part of our show today. He's part of our show today. That's Leo. So, you know,
thank you for having me.
The Amazon guy may be coming to the house, so sorry about that. But anyway, thank you all for joining us. Please pick up this game. Harlem-Opoly is perfect, and I really mean this, for the holidays. Oh, there's a board. There it is. I think it's so beautiful. What did I say earlier? I almost feel like we could frame it. I think it is absolutely one of the most beautiful boards that I've ever seen. It's actually gorgeous. So pick it up, play it with your family, learn from it, look up harlemroots.com and also the walking tour. Shout out to that again. It's called
Welcome to Harlem.com.
Welcome to Harlem.com. There's a lot that you do. Thanks for all you do for the community, Carolyn. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Deborah Kobylt Live.